Hey colleagues, we're back. More importantly, so are you. So thank you everybody for coming to join us for this afternoon's session on leadership and the final module of our Be an Effective Remoter program. So hopefully we're going to be finishing on a high. I think we've had some fantastic shared discussions and some big issues raised throughout the modules we've had so far. So probably lots to discuss because as leaders yourselves, this is a good opportunity to sort of share some of that pain and some of those success points that you've no doubt had since we've been working remotely. So I'm going to find my partner in crime, my right-hand wingman, my confidant, Mr. Malarkey. Yes, he's there because I've just been speaking to him. Hello, Neil.
The Ernie to my Eric, something like that.
Yes, something like that. We could go through all of the great double acts, and I wouldn't be in any of them. But so we're going to talk about leadership this afternoon. And obviously, I mean, you've mentioned some of the clients that you've been working with over the last sort of 12 months. I just wondered what are the sort of things that you're picking up from working with these companies that they're sort of asking themselves about leadership and the challenges that they've got of sort of doing that in a remote environment?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I think some CEOs are doing conscious efforts to do town halls and Q&As and leadership teams, finding that they're actually doing more than they used to. So they're actually making an effort to check in every week or whatever, and that's working well. And some of the people I'm working with in leadership teams, they're a bit nervous because they've got to face questions and their presentation skills. They're worried about how do they do that on Zoom. And I'm saying, well, make it more of a conversation rather than the Politburo announcing stuff from on high. So yeah, there is a kind of day-to-day checking in with people. And also I'm hearing it from people sort of below leadership level or senior leadership saying, I want to speak to my boss. I want to be developed, but they're so busy, I have to wait 6 weeks before I get to see them. And they say, oh, I've got other stuff to deal with. And there seems to be a gap in some areas of access. And the same client saying to me, well, there's certain senior leaders that if you say I want to see you, it's in 3 months' time. Others, oh, let's talk now. And there seems to be a difference in agility and adaptability and flexibility, which I would say leaves some gaps in your diary for those moments, for things that come up.
And that was something that was that came up with the first two modules, Neil, wasn't it? Particularly about the group of colleagues who've on this session with us, is that actually for them as leaders, they're feeling their time is being sort of pulled from both directions, i.e. from above and also from sort of below and that as well. And I just wondered, you know, what you've sort of come across for them to sort of, you know, apart from what we talked about last time, which is, you know, not accepting every meeting, checking whether you need to go to meetings and things like that. Just to, I suppose, just to help them get some thinking space.
Yeah, I think you can block things out in your diary. Also begin to trust the process. Trust the people underneath you. Can you delegate more? How much they need you to be there, how much do you need to step back? And that's a daily difficulty, I would say, the dynamic of how much do I let them get on and feel they're running it or feel unsupported. And each individual will need, I think, their own way of being led, if you like. And that's not easy. I think it's a daily question. Much easier to do in person, probably, when you can just put your head around the door. Yeah. A wink, a chat, a body language. Does she feel fine? Yeah, okay, carry on. And those are harder. So we've got to find ways of creating little spaces for serendipity and gaps where people can say, actually, I do feel a bit worried, or I want to tell you about a thing I'm doing, which hasn't always been recognized.
Yeah, and I think that whole sort of daily journal piece is something I think that which is potentially worth adopting, in terms of actually just taking time before you start your day just to review, well, what did I do yesterday and what have I committed to? Because quite often, I think as a leader, we'll probably overcommit ourselves because we think that's the right thing to do. And I think as I recounted in module 1 with the chief exec who just decided, I'm going to clear my whole diary because I need them some thinking space. And the message that then sent to all of her colleagues who said, oh, right, I'm going to do that as well. So I think it's sometimes it's just good for you to sort of just try something. And what's the worst that can happen around this? You know, be a little bit sort of disruptive. And, you know, because how many times have you been in a meeting, there's been some actions recorded, you come back the next meeting, oh, those actions are still a bit, right, we'll look at that next time. And eventually, when you get around to it, you'll find that, oh, actually, the problem's just gone away sometimes.
Yes, one of my favorite business school professors was called Ian Mangum. And he used to teach at Bath University, sadly passed away now, but he'd come from being a drama professor. And he said he used to run a factory in Italy years and years ago, and they had a strike. And he said, I had to deal with it. I couldn't fax anybody. I could send a telegram, but it wouldn't get there. And of course, within 3 days, he dealt with it. And I wonder, and another friend of mine says, don't reply to an email. In 15 hours, it won't matter. And I'm not sure if that's always the best practice, but a radical measure like saying I'm taking some time out from Zoom, a week or whatever. I wonder if anybody wants to put in chat whether they've thought about it or whether they feel they can't because their boss wouldn't allow it. And maybe they've got a moment to say to their boss, can we set an example? Whether it's some sort of legislation, you know, no meetings on a Friday morning. Turns out if you don't all commit to it, it's not going to work. It's going to be counterproductive.
Yeah, and there will be that feeling of loneliness if you go and do something when everybody else has agreed to it, and then suddenly, oh right, there's only me that's actually sort of done this kind of thing. But Elizabeth is posted there, you know, her boss is really supportive, happy to move things around, and I think that idea of flexible leadership is going to be coming more to the fore. You're not necessarily going to be able to commit to everything with a massive degree of certainty in these times.
Yeah, well, before COVID and even during COVID, I teach improv as a leadership skill and different leadership models. The old one is the boss tells everyone what to do. We know that's not the way. The servant leader, there are all sorts of different models. And of course, there are some things where you make decisions, you tell people what to do. Some teams, you collate differing opinions and create consensus. Sometimes you've actually got to deal with disappointing people. And there's no solution, and it's messy, and they call it wicked problems and clumsy solutions. And that's going to be where leadership happens for sure. But day to day, there may be things you can keep managing. But I would say I've got a few things to say. Is almost every individual needs to be led in their own way. So, for example, Ian, do you like to be WhatsApped? Do you like to be emailed? Do you like to be texted? Do you like to be phoned? What's your favorite?
Oh, yes, there's a whole smorgasbord there. Probably email. I like email. I can relate to that.
I agree. Well, put in the chat, everybody. What do you like? Because I think Ian and we're old codgers. I like email because I can look at it when I want and I can reply in my own time. I feel a bit annoyed when people phone me, but then I'm not doing what you're doing, really. So look at that. It's all moratorium. Oh, that looks fun. Thank you, Anita. That looks fun. But be aware that some people, my children, they want WhatsApp. That's what they do. They never use the phone. So just be aware of different people, I would say. Know what makes each person tick. Is there somebody who's happy to go along without any interaction? Is there somebody else who needs a bit more interaction? Does it have to come from you or one of their mentors, one of their colleagues? One of my clients, friends, actually, Paula McKenzie, head of KFC UK and Ireland, she was interviewed in the Times when she got that job. And she said there are two things as a leader, only two things: people and strategy. And I would add energy to that, but maybe that comes under people. I think that people get energy when you notice what they do. Energy isn't just taking it easy. Energy, you get energy from doing a good job. So you've got to know what each person, what makes them tick, what's their favorite way of being communicated with. Are they the sort of person a quick email does it? Are you somebody who knows the person or just the job? Harder, the higher you go up to know everybody. I was thinking about rewards as well. We talked about bringing people on board. Promotion is obviously one form of reward. But in this world where we are, how do you praise somebody? Publicly, privately? How do you notice the skill they've brought, the energy, the stamina? Great rewards sometimes can be, well, here's, try this project rather than just a bonus or a promotion. Access to new people, different resources. How do we reward people and recognize how without demotivating others? Because actually, sometimes you might think, well, I can't praise Ian because it'll annoy others. But actually, what message does that send? Equally, are you aware of what's going on? If Ian really is doing nothing at all and you're praising him, that doesn't look too good. So how are you hearing now? How are you noticing? Who are your lieutenants? Who are your people? You used to have, I'm not saying informants, but the receptionist who can have a great whisper in your ear saying somebody was staying late. All these things that I would say, somebody say, oh, the soft stuff can wait. And I think the soft stuff actually can't wait. Yeah. That people thing, because people and strategy even are not even different, actually. So people talking about skills, we're shortage of skills. Do we need to recruit? Do we need to upskill certain people? Who feels worried about the responsibility you've given them? Who's ready to take it up? Are you thinking about the person who's worked really hard, but the result hasn't quite worked out? How do you recognize that? That's a lot of what I'm hearing now. And even coaching individuals saying, well, my work is like an iceberg. I had ideas and then I implement them, but actually you only see the 1/8 or 1/9 up here. And then in meetings, that's what they see and recognize. You don't know all the other stuff that's going on beneath, where I've had these ideas and strategies and I've said, actually, just, you've got to talk to people. And she said, oh yeah, I talked to that business partner in November. So it's hard, other than to say what I think Henry Mintzberg said, managing is conversations interrupted. So don't fill your day, consciously don't fill your day. And almost as Ian said, which I said last week, probably every meeting, why is it happening? What's going to happen before it, during it, and after it? And I'm also going to say, in terms of leadership, sometimes your job might be to tell the story of your team at the senior table. Do you feel that's your job? There's a wonderful professor at London Business School who talks about network density. So are you talking just to your team? Are you talking to people just in your organization? Or are you talking to people outside your organization? Are you talking to people not even in your sector? She calls it network density. If you've got to spread it around a bit, is your job to never talk to your team, but just talk about them to the boss? No. Is your talk just talk to the team and get on with it? No. Sometimes it's their ambassador. You're looking to the future. You're thinking about the strategy, how they fit in it. And these, of course, are harder to create, those moments when it just feels like, oh, I better put in another meeting. Yeah. I don't know, Ian, do I send you an email if I want to chat? Do I think I better ring Ian because I'm not feeling very loved at the moment? What are your favorite ways of being noticed? What are the ways as a leader I can cheer somebody up? When do I intervene when it's not going quite right? You talked about, was it Corona speed? That was it. I rather like Corona speed. How do we make decisions at Corona speed? Because some teams and individuals won't always play along unless they've had a role in the decision. But we can't keep having meeting after meeting after meeting. And sometimes, maybe in the chat, somebody said, I'm the leader. I've just got to do it. That's my job. In fact, I read somewhere that sometimes a leader's just got to make a decision. As long as they're right 10% of the time, it doesn't matter. The very act of making a decision is what a leader should do. But that's hard when people might feel, well, I've got something to say, but that dynamic. And as I said before, don't retreat to your bunker. Just don't say, oh, I'm Zoom back to back. I think you've got to say, well, I'm here for something. We're all Zoom back to back, but maybe I'm available in some form to be negotiated with, to be a shoulder, to be an advocate. So start thinking about how much you're available, how much your decision-making process is helping the implementation. And last week, somebody said that their productivity was really good. First of all, how do we measure that? I don't know. it will depend on each organization. But who's suffering? Who's working way too hard to make the productivity really good? Who's perhaps skating along they can in their job, in their sector? If people say, oh, I'm not hearing any complaints, that's fine. But are you hearing every voice? And are there some people who are just too tired to complain, or don't have the right channel, or the confidence, or the sense that anything will happen? So when just to get to failure, as a leader, how do you deal with failure? Are you somebody who gives them a second chance? How does that play with other people? Are you somebody who says, this person's done well, but for other reasons, it didn't work out? And I think that's very hard in remote. And that must be a challenge for us. How do I don't like the word performance management, but ultimately it's that. How do I make sure that we're hitting targets? How do I make sure that I know my people even know what to do? As I said before, there was somebody who was so nervous. They'd been in the job 4 months, but actually hadn't done anything because they felt unsure. And was it laziness? That's what their boss was telling me. And then finally, Ian, who's looking after you? Who do you moan to? Whose window can you peer through and say, look, I need a bit of a hug. I'm not sure what to do. Are you able to share your doubts with your team? Are you able to share your hopes with your team? How much transparency do you want? Who are the right stakeholders? Your peers, perhaps? Find a friend. You know, people often say the CTO, they're my friend, the CFO, or there's somebody who kind of isn't directly in my world or something, but I know she is a great shoulder. She knows the story, but we can have the right sort of chat. So that's the kind of thing, is looking after the individuals, looking after the team. Is it a team? Are we sharing the work? And who am I? How am I? Am I fitting the right mold for this team for now? If I'm complaining all the time about my energy, how does that reflect on others? Because then they feel they've got to be as exhausted as you. And can I do something as radical as take some time off, or just say, I'm zoomed out for today, this week, whatever. So that's the kind of thing that we want you to start thinking about. We have some video in a minute, but Ian, what are you hearing? What are you thinking? What have you heard from your clients?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, just sort of looking at the comments there from everybody about the different channels that they use and what they're comfortable and what they're not comfortable with. And this again came up last week, that as managers, they're having to manage multiple platforms. Right, I've done my emails. I'll now do WhatsApp. I'll now do Slack. I'll now do Teams. I'll do all of this sort of thing. And I think, this is where, as leaders, you guys can actually say, I tell you what, this is just not working for me. And the chances are, if you ask your colleagues, that they'll go, actually, it's not really working for me either. And one of the things that I always find is a really good way of trying to find out what problem you're looking to solve is just write down a little problem statement. It's something we do with Amazon when it was part of their problem-solving model, and just write down, a problem statement, exactly what the problem is that you're trying to solve. And in this case, if it's around communications, or if it's around engagement, or it's around, an aspect of work, you'll quite often find when you do write that down, excuse me, and you consult with other colleagues, actually the problem you thought you were solving is probably a different one from that. I do like on the general chat there, though, how we've managed to spell out Tesla. So anybody who's playing chat bingo there, we've now got Tesla spelled out, or Teslab, if you include the final B there.
I've got some slides just to summarize.
Yeah, I'll move off the stage, Neil, and leave it to yourself. Yeah.
Oh well, no, because we'll I'll just show you some slides. Then we have a comment from the great Elvaughan Spencer. Then we'll get people talking and thinking about where this might work for them. So I don't know, Diana, do you want to show us the slides? Maybe I don't know how it works with Ian. You might have to shove him to one side.
Yes, I think I'll leave my mic and camera on, and
we'll see what happens. I've got these slides just to kind of remind you. Have I phrased it in the way that seems pertinent to you? So leadership is the most complicated, complex, multi-discussed idea. So next slide, please, Diana. So think about the individual. What does each person need from you, or from the team, or from the unit? How does each person like to connect? Now, last week it was, I don't want to have 7 times of communication, but maybe there is somebody that doesn't go on Teams, or maybe it's better if we just all go Teams. That's the way to do it. And that, as a leader, you make that decision. And I'm just wondering, just hearing from individuals I coach, is the last time I talked to my boss is weeks away, and I don't even know when I'm seeing her next. Do we know? I don't know if you've got a checklist, or if they're not directly reporting to you. When was the last time they saw their boss? What's the sort of traffic between people in leadership? How are we telling people upstairs? How are we feeding information up, and how are we feeding information down, as it were? So next slide, please, Diana. What's the things are going well? How do we reward people? Do we give them public praise, private praise, a quite quick email, send something to their house? That seems quite fun, to get a tangible object. Or is it just, you've done well, here's another big project, or you've done well, get involved with another team as something you can collaborate on, expand your own capabilities, a bit of learning of a new type of skill, a new type of area. Public praise, private praise, how does that help? How does that not help? Is a leader's job to praise? And what does that look like? How do you feel of somebody receiving praise or giving praise? What's the right way to do it? And does it depend on the individual, or the achievement, or the team orientation? I read once a guy he writes in The Guardian, called Oliver Burkeman, and how it's psychologically more motivating to have smaller weekly goals than a big yearly goal. And so as a leader, are you helping people sort of see how they're achieving, the line of sight? Because I've done that, that's as possible. Because I've done this, she can do that, or that team's been able to do that. And also, ultimately, your customers, their lives have been improved thanks to something you did. Next slide, please, Diana. So when things are not going, how do we deal with failure? Working to succeed, we can thrive, but are we creating an environment where people are scared to fail? Obviously, failure could be pretty sad and not something you can laugh off. It affects people's livelihoods and houses and stuff. But how do we deal with failure when it could be a learning experience? We certainly heard that. Think about the cascade of failure, but how do we even call it failure? I don't know, where things have taken longer or haven't quite worked out as they are. How do we hold a team together in those moments? Do we give second chances to people because we think they can learn? Is there an ultimate person who's doing second chances all the time? How do we help that person retrain or keep the culture of the team going? Let's have a look. Now, next slide, please, Diana. So timing. I was just thinking corona speed. That's what Ian said this morning, and it's a tough one. So do we need to set a deadline for each thing? Are there some things that need more time to breathe, to be thought about, to sort of garner opinion? Or is it there are times I've just got to step in, I'm the leader, this is it, and kind of, do I need to tell people why I've done that, or that's it, and we can just move on? How do we play that more sort of command and control moment when it's required, as it may be? Next slide, please. So keep building bridges. Who are you talking to? Are you talking to people in the wider network, different organizations? Today is absolutely brilliant, I think. I can see how people sharing interesting problems and solutions and challenges is really helpful. How available are you, though, to those people who would come to you, possibly not to anybody else? Are you available? They say the soft stuff can't wait. What is the soft stuff? Is it somebody feeling a bit glum, or is it somebody feeling underappreciated, or somebody who's been newly promoted? That's another one. I've had psychologists. We were all a celebration for a big consulting firm, and she said the first 18 months are the worst. You get really stressed because you elated, you got the new job, and then, oh no, can I really do it? So who are you holding carefully? Are you feeling that way? Maybe you're still in that first 18 months. Next slide, please. And who's taking care of you? Because you can't do the best for your team if you're not in at least good shape. Who's taking care of you? Are you making sure you're going for a walk physically, metaphysically, metaphorically? Okay, and thank you. Next slide, Diana. That's just how to get hold of me. I'm on all of those. That's exciting. So look, I'm opening myself up to all sorts of channels. You probably have your own favorites. So thank you. That's the end of the slides. And Ian, let's bring Ian back in. Before we go to the question we want you to think about, we've got a little video. Ian, shall we hear from L. Vaughan Spencer, possibly the world's best motivational guru? His motto: don't be needy, be succeeding. Okay, yeah. Diane, ready to play the video. Hello, I'm L. Vaughan Spencer, one of the world's top business experts in the world. For example, I headed up the leadership development program at Enron and Spud You Like. So in remote times, how can you lead? How can you lead when you can't invite people into your large, plush office? How can you lead when you can't go and look over their shoulders to check they're doing their work properly? Well, you need to communicate. You need to be authentic. For example, here is a great leader's speech for virtual times. Good to see so many of you here at the virtual town hall. What do we have to look forward to over the next year? Let me tell you about our strategy for the next year. We intend to do more. We won't do less, we'll do more. At the heart of everything we do is the customer. That's the heart. What are the lungs? Well, you're the lungs, the people. The heart and the lungs. But what about the kidneys? Well, that's Mr. Smithick. He's the kidneys. He's really good. He's the head of stationery. So that's the heart, the lungs, and the kidneys. But I hope you will join me on this journey. Please join me on this journey. You know my digital door is always open. Ring up my PA, Ronald, and he'll fit you in. We've got a slot at the moment in 2026 on Tuesday, March the 12th for 3.5 minutes because, you know, I care. Remember, to be a great leader, you've got to be a succeeder.
Words as usual there, Neil, from Elvo there. Very much for that contribution. So we're now going to split you down back to the tables, and myself and Neil will pop in and see how the chat goes. But the question we wanted you to sort of debate is, what's the biggest leadership challenge that you've faced working remotely, and how have you overcome it? I'm sure there'll be lots of sort of crossovers. Again, it might be what we talked about in previous sessions about managing all of the comms. It might be around decision making. It might be around an appointment. It might just be about yourself as well. So again, we'll break you down. If we can just make sure there's just 5 of you on a table, and then that leaves a space free for myself and Neil to come in and listen to the chat. And again, we'd love to get more of you up on stage, particularly if you haven't already been, just to come and share with us some of the conversations that are going on there. So Dan, if we can send everybody off to their tables, that would be great. Welcome back, colleagues. I hope you enjoyed that chat around the table and you've shared some good experiences there. Certainly some wide-ranging issues, really. Not necessarily all of the ones I would have sort of expected, but it does look like everybody's dealing with some very, very similar issues. And I just wondered, Neil, was that the case on your tables? Were people sort of, you know, sharing the stories?
Yes. And let's hear in chat, because in the old days, you'd be in the office, you look around, see everyone's busy, and you realize they're as busy as you. We don't always know that in virtual times. We might know our team's busy, but we don't know why the other people can't reply to our emails immediately. And so it was interesting. So Steve Bird, we were talking about IT as well. He's an ICT development manager. So maybe Steve could have a chat come up, but we'd love to hear from anybody else as well on the floor. We want to hear from you. And by the way, we will be sending out some feedback and some follow-up on this. So do check it out. There'll be some interesting extras coming your way. So how do we get the visual clues? It just feels like everybody's busy. And Steve expressed it really well, is that in terms of ICT, sorted out so much. His whole team got everything really done in no time at all, and really hasn't slowed up at all. That emergency period still seems to be ongoing. And I've just found a thing this morning, which is basically 3 leadership lessons, which were honor people's home lives, outside work, check-ins still matter, and model the behavior you want. So Amanda Bennett said, actually, she doesn't practice what she preaches. She's saying, oh, everybody take some time off, relax. I'm looking what time you're sending these emails. But she says she's the worst. She needs time on a Sunday evening to look at things. And that's fair enough. So I said, maybe don't send them till Monday, because of course the tyranny of the inbox. If you sent me an email, I've got to deal with it. So how are you modeling that? I told you last week about the guy from Google, who has his signatories, I've sent this email. I support flexible working. You can reply when you want. And it's just a small thing, but from an important person sends a clear message. So certainly busy is the thing. Are we all just still going at Corona speed? And do we need Corona speed for everything? What needs a bit of time, maybe, and a different way of reflecting on things? Ian, what was your gang hearing?
Well, we were sort of talking about a range of issues, but I asked the question about how do you get the temperature as leaders? How do you know how people are feeling, individuals, and the individual types, introverts, extroverts, and things like that. And we were sort of talking about, well, are there different sort of technologies that people can use to do that because you can't see them? And then Emma McSweeney was sort of sharing about what they've done in terms of they do sort of every 2 months they've got 15 questions and they'll just send them round, and basically from the feedback they get from that, they've then got some longitudinal information and some data about how the organization and how individuals are feeling at any particular point in time. And I think that's probably quite good practice, just so that if somebody is having a bad day, they know they've got a medium through which they can express that as well. So I think that's going to become, fairly important. I mean, you can automate some of these things a bit more, and I talked about some of the technologies that other housing organisations are actually using. But again, you've got to ask these questions. You've got to, we've got a responsibility for people's well-being, haven't we?
Yes, Ian, have you got some tech names, some apps or something that easily?
Yeah, I think the two more sort of prominent ones in the sector are by a company called Rant and Rave, who do both sort of resident and customer feedback, but also staff satisfaction. And then HiveHR, who I know quite a few housing organisations have got HiveHR in. And what I liked about that was the speed with which it can get you feedback and sentiment around how the organization is feeling. So if you're a leader and you want to test an idea out, or you want to put some communications out, if you tag that through the HiveHR, you get very, very rapid feedback. So you could do a company or a team announcement on the Friday. By the following Wednesday, you could have some real data as to how that's landed, what people think about it. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is there something we need to sort of do differently? And again, this is another tool that as remote workers, we're going to have so I suppose, access to.
Okay. I wonder if Steve Bird wants to come up on stage. So I'm naming him. If there's anybody else, we can have 4 or 5 of us, if you like. So Steve Bird, up you come. And indeed, somebody give me thumbs up if you want to come up on stage, because we can't just have Ian and me going on and on. Steve is coming. Good. Steve Bird's put lots of things in the chat, and I was in his room. He was saying about how much he's sort of not slowed down really since April.
And he's got a standing desk, Neil. He's standing.
Yes, hooray. Steve, tell us more. So you've been going at 100 miles an hour since March last year.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like that old adage: if someone does something well once, you get more work to do. And those principles of proving that we can deliver huge volumes of work in a short space of time. Just for people, we sort of rolled out 400 laptops, 200 mobile phones, a new VDI solution, loads of other products, Zoom, for example, within a couple of weeks. And because we proved that we could deliver that quickly, everyone went, oh, well, that's now the pace we work at.
Yeah.
So we've retained that coronavirus speed and momentum, and we've not stopped to think, is this speed and momentum the correct way to deliver our services to our colleagues? Is it correct for the business? And we've forgotten the soft skills that you were talking about earlier, Neil.
Well, I'm going to give you a moment to think. You're ICT development manager, so you might know some of the software Ian's mentioned. You might know some other stuff, but I'm going to share with you. Last year, there was a book called Humor Seriously, which is using humor in the workplace. I think it's really important. Not making joke at somebody's expense, but sharing our fragility, our vulnerability. And they said just simple things like putting a PS in your email. So PS, I see it's raining, or PS, I've got treacle tart for dinner tonight or something, just to raise a smile. And I'm just wondering, because Sean's put a nice thing, let's put emojis in. How can we make that busy somehow more human? And as Amanda Bennett in our group, she said, also busy is, we've got different levels of busy. Is that, you know, my son, age 12, his busy is nothing compared with my wife's, who's a very busy worker. Steve, any thoughts?
Yeah, quite a simple one. Every time you send an email, think to yourself, have I asked how this person is? Have I put something in that is not technical? So it's not about the problem that I'm discussing, but actually it's about the recipient as a person. So I might say to you, Neil, thanks for your email. I'm just about to sit down and have a cheese and tomato sandwich. What are you having for lunch? ? My response to you is da 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 da. This is how we're going to take it forward. So, you know, we're not continually stuck in that world of sending an email to deliver an action. We're starting to build those networks across the organization, across other organizations, and thinking of people more than just a bit of AI that's just going to deliver us something. They're actually going to be a person at the end.
Very good. Certainly, and it's a theme we've come across, is people are saying we're getting a lot of formal communication, not much informal. And that doesn't have to be just, oh, we've all got to go on a Zoom wine tasting evening. It can be just tiny moments in emails, as you say, or sharing something that amuses or empathizes.
I sent an email to one of our directors not long ago, and I'd written my email out, and I thought, well, this is just a technical response. This is just saying duh, duh, duh. So I just put, happy Friday, ! And the recipient rang me up a couple of hours later and said, thank you. You're the first person who made me smile today because I received your email and it said happy Friday. And I thought, do you know what? It's coming up to the weekend. So just tiny little random acts of kindness, I think.
Brilliant. Okay. Anita likes that. Anybody else want to put in chat or even come up on stage and tell us just tiny things that haven't cost any time, no money? What else can we do? Just tiny things. And from the leadership perspective, how are we sending out those things maybe where multiple people are looking at us?
I think that the point that Steve made, Neil, is an important one around the desirability. And the two questions you've got to ask yourself about operating at speed, because is it desirable? Is it possible to continue to operate at that speed? Because ultimately, from a leadership point of view, you want to catch people before they fall over, not when they're falling over. And I think that's a really important differentiation. You know, it's no good having systems in place for when people do topple over. You want to stop doing that. So I think there are questions across all housing organizations is, right, what is the speed that we can safely go at that manages the well-being of people? You might not want to go back to the days of it takes 6 months to make a decision around something quite small, but you're going to have to find that right level again. And you only do that by having conversations about, right, you know, what's right for us.
I've just noticed in chat that Tereska Leach was telling us what month it is and what year, and that's really helpful. Thank you very much. And then she's put oops, and I want to know can we bring Tereska up to find out what happened there? Because let's cascade the failure. What was going on there? Because we've got a few more minutes left. How can we make this more human, but also as a leader, how are we role modeling small things that are taking the pressure off? Because Ian, you said, you know, is it desirable? Is it possible? Hello, Tereska. What was that all about?
So I've got my two monitors and my other monitor went on to screensaver. But my cursor was clearly on the wrong one. So I'd put my password in. So I'll get that changed afterwards.
You told us your password.
Right, yeah. Highly secure password.
It's my failure.
So Tereska, how are you as a leader coping? What's the biggest challenge you're facing?
I suppose with my team members, I've got a couple of team members, and one of them only started last year, and one of them only in April. So it's teaching them the job when one of them's never been in the office, and it's the first proper job. It's the work placement, the one that started in April. So it's teaching them what they need to do without actually being there.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, as you're going to change your password, it'd be great if people put in the chat Any suggestions for what she could have as our password?
Something more, something stronger than that.
Well, I don't know. It could be Ian Wright is marvelous or something.
Yeah. We do have to change. We do have to change it every month.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, I was just going to say, because we've only got sort of 4 minutes left, Neil. Are there some questions either about today's module or the previous ones that we've not answered the questions that you thought, or have you got something? Is there something burning in these last few minutes that we can either share with the rest of the colleagues who are on the call, or myself and Neil can sort of try and answer? Andy's gone into lockdown. No, that's the password. Yes, good one.
Yes. Oh, we've lost Tereska, it says here her job is performance lead. So there we are. We need to know how she's doing that, and it's hard. And of course, maybe we've given some answers here. So we're not getting barrage of questions, which I think is pretty good, Ian. So we've got 3 minutes. So okay, which of the things you've heard today, this morning and this afternoon, have you decided you're going to have a go with? And when we send out the feedback, as well as some little extras, some DVD extras, we might call them, have you, what have you taken from it that we might involve and remind people of? Catherine, what's been particularly good? Is there some tiny nugget? We love what Steve said, Happy Friday, treating the person first and then the task as a separate thing. A synopsis. We'll be providing a synopsis. We will provide a little synopsis. Make emails more fun, really easy. The PS, the opening line, even the subject, even something quite technical, you could just have a tiny thing. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be hugely funny. It doesn't have to be some sort of great GIF you've got off the internet. It can be just, I'm not wearing any socks today. It could be, I'm looking forward to going out this weekend. Decelerate. Oh, I like that. Decelerate to accelerate. Say no to meetings, Catherine. Yeah, say no. Because, of course, if you say no, it means it might not happen. Cascading failure. Oh, right. Okay, I'm going to send my slides. I think you'll get all the slides. And also, we're going to have a little summary as well. So we'll see how is your COVID outfit today? Good. What's the... don't respond to emails and chat straight away. Yes. Ignore emails. Hope it goes away. Yes. People get energy when you notice what they do. I think that's a really good one, isn't it? That's really good. Energy isn't just about lots of sleep and not being tired. It's something about motivation, passion, feeling appreciated. Ian, what have you taken from today?
Well, I mean, there's a lot there. It's great to see things that people have remembered that, I'll be honest, I'd forgotten about some of those things, and we only did them sort of last week. And I think for me, that shows how much of an information overload we're all getting, because we're getting, all of these things of really, really good things that's coming to us. And actually, I forgot about that, because as soon as this is stopped, I go straight into a sort of another meeting. So I think my key thing from I want colleagues to sort of take away was, look, you have as leaders a large element of control over what you do, how you do it, and when you do it. And that old saying, forgiveness over permission is really, really true in this remote world. And none of you have come on this and said, my business, my team, my performance is absolutely failing. It hasn't. You've achieved this despite all of these things that you've never had to experience before. So, just take the courage that you've had over the last 14 months and just make those 1 or 2 small changes that actually make your job more fun and more enjoyable.
And yes, you're wearing 2 shirts today, Ian, again.
Absolutely. Well, I saw that the middle-aged men in a hoodie sort of look was back in, so I thought that's how I'd finish the session, just to make sure that I was in with the in crowd there. But yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Ian. You look like you're ready to go for a cycle, I must say. Think about planning meetings. Yes, being prepared. Spend time beforehand. Reduce the time that you're actually on screen, perhaps. Yes. Oh, email the team and say, I'm doing amazing because of them. That's a good one, Sean.
Yeah. Because is the important word there. No, don't say in spite of.
Because is a good word. Saying thank you because is good. Thank you because I know you had a lot of other things, because you did it quicker than I expected, because I know it was a big ask, just because the psychology says because is a great word. So it's a great word for customers, a great word for colleagues. Right, Ian, I've got to go and have a lie down now. I'm so exhausted. Luckily, I can. I hope everyone else has built in a bit of recovery time after this. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Diana, Nikki, and Shannon, all the people backstage who are doing the real work here while Ian and I just, flannel about. So thank you all very much for coming. And we could do this again sometime. Just check in. I don't know whenever, maybe after the summer, see how you've got on. Many thanks to the two Ronnies. Yes, it's good night from me.
Yeah, and it's good night from him, and it's good night from Elvo as well. So thanks, guys. Really enjoyed meeting you all, and please let us have your feedback. It's good to know what we've done has made a difference. So stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.